Hi, I'm Joe. Welcome back. This is the Ultimate Love Letter. Thank you for joining the conversation. Your stories matter. We want to hear from you. I'm going to make this short and sweet. We need to step out of the mindset that what we have to say does not matter. The truth is, we are here to build, to create, to take up space, to make the world better, far better than how we've entered it. We are to leave it that much more elevated, that much more enhanced. We can only do that when we are speaking about our story. You know what's interesting is I remember a time also for me when I wasn't speaking my truth, where I would make myself less than, just very small, and kind of just squirm, wanting to be unnoticed. I would go into boardrooms, and I was a top level, like a senior executive, and I would go into boardrooms and I would watch the same confident executives speak their ideas, and how the owners would just migrate to those that were speaking. They were collaborating. But for me, I was like the still mouse in the room, believing that my ideas were not good enough. And what I found was interesting is that the ideas that did come when I was in those meetings and I wouldn't speak up out of fear, another executive would say the exact same idea and it would blow over marvelously. Like the owners would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's an excellent idea. Let's do that." And I'm like, shit, why didn't I speak up? And that happened several times, time and time again. I'm thinking about the moment when God began to heal me. As God continues to heal me, especially in the area of my speaking, of my throat chakra, as God began to give me confidence that yes, I am here to speak my truth. Yes, I am here to speak His truth. Yes, my ideas, my dreams, my goals, what I have to say is valuable. And as I began to speak out, just testing the theory, I found two powerful things that happened. For one, my voice changed. I find it marvelous and miraculous and just inspiring and just confusing that people migrate towards the sound of my voice. I hear this over and over. For those who listen to our podcast, they're like, "Joe, oh my gosh, the sound of your voice is so soothing." And I'm stunned because this was not the case the majority of my life. Probably when I was a child, yes, now I'm reverting back to that childlike state, that little girl. But I very much lost it in adulthood. I very much feared or thought that I was inadequate to speak my truth. No one wanted to hear it. But as God healed that, my voice changed. It's incredible to hear that it soothes, that it's in depth, that it's strong. And when I hear it now for myself, you remember, when you hear your voice recording, we would just kind of like, "Ugh, I hate to hear the sound of my voice." I actually enjoy it now. It's so interesting, and only God can take the credit for this. But not only did God change my voice and He healed my voice as He healed the fear surrounded around that I wasn't enough, but then I found another thing happening. People would migrate towards my stories. People who I would meet, just out and about would say, "Oh my goodness, I heard the podcast and oh my gosh, like when you said there, what you said there, that resonated. That's what I'm dealing with." We find our people by our stories. I know that you may be thinking that whatever has happened to you in the past, whatever is happening to you right now in the present, is something that is not worthy to be spoken of, that no one wants to hear your story. Absolutely not. Actually, people resonate towards storytelling. People resonate towards our victories, towards our struggles. Why? Because we are also in the same struggle. we are also praying, believing for a victory. So in comes you with your backstory, your struggles, your upbringing. And then it penetrates, it resonates with others. And then when you follow through with a victory that caused you to overcome the struggle, then it's like, oh my gosh, there's hope. And all we have in this world is hope. And so as we begin to tell our stories, whichever way God is using them, whether that's through poems, whether that's through paintings, whether that's through writings, whether that's through speaking, whatever form that is, God is asking you to tell your story. Once we follow that, we begin to find our people, our community grows. You inspire the world. We change the world through our stories. I was speaking with my mother the other day. Now, my grandfather, my mother's father, was one of the original black cowboys in Los Angeles. And he had the Hill Stables over on El Segundo, if you're familiar with this area, and in Los Angeles. And after his passing, to our surprise, but we're not so surprised, people wanted to write the book about him. And there is a book that's out because of the lives that my grandfather touched when he was simply using, his stables to touch others, other young black men, to inspire them, in a positive way, to learn the art of horseback riding and to be involved in the community there. And so my mother, I was speaking to her the other day, and she said she was speaking with her cousin who has a memory of an elephant. And she was sharing stories of when she was 3 and when the family moved from Texas to Los Angeles, and the original stewards, the great grandmothers of my grandfather. And the stories were so fascinating. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's our family history. Like, it was marvelous. I couldn't believe that was my family that my mother was speaking about. And in turn, my mom was like shocked. She was like, I can't believe this is my family. Like, I knew my grandmother and I didn't know this much about her. And to the point where my mother shared that there's a story actually on, I don't know if it's Netflix or Hulu, and that the story was actually mirrored from my great grandfather, because it was just such a profound, unheard of story at the time. Perhaps I'll get into that in another convo. But here it was, my mother's cousin, my second cousin, I suppose that is, that was sharing a story, and it blew the minds just of those that are in the family. And not only those in the family, but so much so that the stories that did go out into the public, not only did people write books about it, but there's a film or documentary about it, and it's just mind-blowing. We need to hear from you. We need your collaboration. We need you impacting the world, and you do that by your stories. I was at a beautiful birthday event this past weekend, and this beautiful woman that I have only met twice came running up to me, and she says, oh my goodness, Joe, I want you to know I quit my job. And she says, because I want to do what you do. And in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? That's what I'm thinking. But as I listened to her story, she went on to say, it's true that life is far more than simply struggling and striving at a menial job that it no longer is worthy of your energy, a job that you have outgrown. She said, I spent 30 years at this job. 30 years of my precious life. She says, and I found myself, I would wake up and I would be drained, and I would just tell my husband, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go. Like, I just feel this heavy weight on me. I want to give it up. And her husband, she shared, had said, well, everybody feels like that. And he's absolutely right. The majority of us feel like that because there is only a select few that have become brave enough to break away from what society says we must do, which is work hard at menial work that is less than us on someone else's dream and not our own dreams. But nothing can be further from the truth. It's going to take courage, yes, to step out of that rat race and step into the truth of everything that we're meant to be doing, which is whatever it is God's laying on your heart. And chances are, I already know, it's something creative. It's something inspiring. You know you want to do it, and I know it's creative. And that's because that is how we are intended to live. We are intending to earn our living. We are intending to earn our living by impacting the world. And usually that involves by using our creative gifts that God has given us to express our way, whichever way God is using it, to impact and change the world. That's it. But it takes bravery. It takes the courage to speak out, to express in those very ways. And as the beautiful woman was speaking, for one, I must say, this woman comes from an incredible family, beautiful family that is deeply impactful. I was honored to be in the room. I was honored to get an invite to such an incredible event. And I was a little surprised that she worked outside of the family business. When she told me she quit her job, I thought, I didn't even know you held a job in this fashion. But I did notice, because we are friends on Facebook, I did notice her beautiful recent travels abroad. And she just seemed like she was glowing and full of light. And for her now to be standing in front of me and saying that something I said touched her in such a deep way that caused her to become courageous enough to give up the 30-year career to finally step out and do what serves her, what God is asking her to do. Oh my God, I was floored. I said, oh yeah, it's definitely in our storytelling. I know this. I've spoken about this before, but I'm here to say it is time for you to step in the very ways. And I want to also tell you, perhaps for you, it doesn't look like giving up your 9 to 5 completely. And that's noble. When we are expressing our art, whatever way that is, then we should also be making a vow to protect the art. We're not putting pressure on the art to monetize right now. We are simply giving away the gifts freely that God is asking us to give away, to express ourselves truly, to share our stories. And then as we do that, God will do the rest. And that will look like strength will be infused in you. Inspiration will be infused in you. Courage will be infused in you. And as God's building up the courage, yes, He will make sure that the money comes, possibly by way of your job, but at some point that courage might step in and perhaps you will go all in. And then God will take over to make sure nothing, not a beat, is skipped. The money will continue to flow because you have finally stepped out courageously and are trusting God for something bigger. It's a process. It's a beautiful journey that only starts with you stepping in to your courage, into your bold. This is where that phrase comes in, fortune favors the bold. I know it looks like a risk, but it's really a reward. Share your stories, give away your gifts. We need to hear your expression in the way God is asking you to express it. Thank you so much for joining this convo. Please consider sharing it with someone who needs an encouragement, because we need to hear from everyone. That's how we find our people. That's how we build community. That is how we change the world. Until next time, love yourself and love others. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now.